I'm admitting everybody. Okay, just a moment for everyone to come in from the waiting room. As a reminder, please mute yourself unless you are testifying before the licensing division. Please ensure that your audio and video are both functioning. Okay, good morning. This is a hearing before the Mayor's Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing for the City of Boston. Today is September 21st, 2021. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. With us today is Executive Director Kathleen Joyce, myself, Rebecca Fu, Director of Operations, Lieutenant Detective Troy, Sergeant Detective Gallagher, Detective Hernandez, Captain Chicolo, Sergeant Moy, and Captain Chicolo will introduce other officers later. This hearing will be recorded and posted to the City of Boston's website. I will read the agenda items into the record, after which I will ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, or who is present on, yes, and who is present on behalf of the police department. I will then ask if there are any individuals present who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident on the specific date. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record. The licensee or the representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement regarding the alleged incident, followed by questions by Director Joyce. So calling first item, ER Enterprises LLC, DBA Savour Restaurant and Lounge, located at 174 to 180 Lincoln Street. Manager of record, Francois Furman. And the first license premise violation is number 008601. Date of incident is July 31st, 2021. The alleged incident is an assault and battery patron on patron. There is a incident report of 212-052-885 with the alleged incident of an assault simple, and then incident report 212-052-885 supplemental report, alleged incident assault and battery patron on patron. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Yes, good morning, Ms. Fu, Attorney Joseph Feaster and my colleague, Attorney Timothy Frazier, are representing Savour. As well, Mr. Eddie Furman is here, the manager and owner of Savour.
Who will be testifying on behalf of the police department?
Officer Christopher Rooney.
And are there any individuals who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident that would like to testify? Okay, can all individuals please raise their right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Officer Rooney, please proceed with the police report.
About 2:07 a.m., Officer Whistle and Rooney in the Alpha 102 Alpha responded to a radio call for a fight in progress in the area of 180 Lincoln Street downtown. On arrival, officers located a large group of people yelling and screaming. Officers exited their cruiser and ordered the group to disperse. Officers met with victim one, Maya Granum, who was wearing a shirt that was ripped, and she stated she was just attacked. Granum stated a middle-aged white woman started being verbally abusive to her outside of the bar. The victim then stated she was attacked by the unknown suspect. She remained, sorry, I apologize for the background noise. I'm in another courthouse. We continue here. While officers were speaking with Granum, a large fight broke out approximately 150 yards further down the road on Lincoln Street. We called for assistance over the radio and ran over to the fight to disperse the group. It should be noted that there were several fights at this time across the district, and several officers were tied up on calls for service. Officers observed an unknown group fighting and ordered for the group to stop. For officer safety reasons, officers decided to not engage in the physical altercation as officers were alone with a large group. Officers were able to break up the fight after the several verbal commands and warnings that they could be subject to arrest. Officers ordered the group to successfully disperse and left the scene. Officers met with victim number 2, Amari Bryant, who was upset with police response. Bryant yelled at officers to arrest an unknown male suspect who she claimed punched her in the face. Bryant refused EMS and was highly irate with the scene on police. Officers advised a report will be written on her behalf. While officers were speaking with Bryant, another female suspect, Erica Freeman, approached officers and said that she was attacked by Bryant. Bryant then started yelling and walking towards Freeman. Officers physically separated that group and ordered Freeman to leave. Freeman was with this shirtless black male that was possibly involved in the fight. Officers remained on scene with the victims while they waited for a ride. The victims were angry, no arrests were made, and requested officers' badge numbers. Officers provided badge numbers in the incident report number to the victim, which was Granum. Officers repeated the incident number and badge number to Granum and advised officers needed to clear to respond to another call. She was highly upset and hit the cruiser side mirror and passenger doors and pulled away from the scene. That's the conclusion of the report.
Thank you. Attorney Feaster, would you like to make a statement?
Yes, I was, and thank you very much, officer. I have read the report. It says in here that with victim number one, Mayana, was the person with whom she had to fight, the white woman with whom she had to fight, was she present at the scene when the officers arrived?
It had been broken up, and I believe she came back to the scene.
Okay, but she's not identified in this report at all by name?
Let me double check. We identified another female suspect, Erica Freeman. But yes, I remember. To my knowledge, the middle-aged white woman that was involved had previously left the scene and was not on scene at the time.
Okay. And no search was made of to locate her because she had left the scene, officer. Is that correct?
She had left the scene. She was an unknown suspect to the victims of the scene, and they did not know any other than a physical description. They could not tell me any more information.
Now, with regards to you mentioned two things. One, the victim number one, Ms. Granum, and victim number 2, Ms. Bryant. Did you ascertain where they have been coming from when you came into contact with them? Where they are coming from or where they had been prior to the fight?
Yes. One of them was a resident of Randolph, I believe. She was saying she lived in Randolph, so they were visiting the Lincoln Street area, Savoy nightclub area for the night. They were coming into the Boston.
Okay. So had they, I guess to be more specific, officer, I gather what I was asking was, did you ascertain whether they had been in Savoy or not that evening? We
located them on Lincoln Street, which was just outside of the club, but we did not ascertain if if they were inside the club. That's not a matter.
Okay, so we are unclear as to whether they had been patrons at the club or not. You also mentioned that there was another altercation that had been about approximately 150 yards further down. Do you know anything about the participants in that altercation?
There was the shirtless male that we were not able to identify. We were off with a large group at that point. It was probably 150 yards further down from where we were. Okay. It was kind of a chaotic scene. So
But
the people
again,
that we-
did you ascertain whether any of the persons involved in that altercation had been at Savor or?
specifically, no, we
So,
were unsure.
you know, so, and would it be fair to say that I saw one report, and I'm just speaking broadly here, Officer Rooney, only because of the other reports that I read. There are oftentimes fights in and around Kingston, Lincoln Street, Chinatown, down by the, I gather as well, down by South Station. Would it be fair to say that there are instances where there are other locations around here where there are fights taking place? Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
All right. I have no further questions, Ms. Joyce.
Thank you, Attorney Feaster. I have a couple of questions for you or for Mr. Furman. Are you saying that the people that were named in this police report were not patrons of Sabor that night? Can you hear me?
Are you
Yes,
speaking to me?
Reverend, you can answer that. Yes.
Are you stating today that you don't believe these people were patrons of Sabor that night?
I believe they were patrons. We were dispatched to the area outside of 180 Lincoln Street. Did they specifically state that the incident occurred inside of the club? No, but we were dispatched right outside to the area of Sabor nightclub.
Okay. I just want to ask Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman, are you stating that these people were not patrons of your club that night?
No, I'm not stating that, Ms. Joyce. What I am stating is we have a police report, and being that my client received a licensed premises violation, the presumption is that the officers ascertained that these were patrons of the club. Now, I have other issues about when people engage in the fighting, but that's a different conversation as to whether that should be a licensed premises, but that's my own opinion. But
Okay.
on the basis of this, what we have to rely upon is the evidence that's before us. And that's why I ask, if it wasn't ascertained, these people could have come from any place
Sure.
and got in a fight. It was in that area. And that's the reason why, whether that fight or the fight that was spoken of by Officer Rooney, that was about 150 yards down, that could be from any place. But I would ask Mr. Furman if he knows. If he
Yeah, just
knows
simple
who
yes or
Miss
no.
Grantham is, or he knows who Miss Bryan is, that he can answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Feaster. Honestly, I do not know. This
Okay.
violation was presented to me weeks after the fact, so I have no idea. So I do not know.
Okay, so what was the theme of July 31st? You were before us recently for a Taco Tuesday night. You're operating as a restaurant. What was the theme on July 31st?
Let's see, what's July 31st? Usually it's the same thing. We have food and there was, people just coming in, eating food and you're just relaxing and unwinding. That's pretty much
Okay.
it. I don't think it was
So
that.
I'm just gonna clarify for the record that your entertainment license does not permit dancing or a dance floor.
I do not have a dance floor. I have tables everywhere.
Do you move tables for your patrons to dance?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Office been in my place plenty of time for the past 8 years. This is the first time I'm hearing this. It's always been tables everywhere. I do not move tables.
So you don't move tables to allow patrons to dance?
Not at all.
Okay, and you're aware, we have a copy of your 2014 lease that says you're not allowed to have, you'd be in violation of your lease if there was dancing?
I do not have, I have a copy of the lease, but I do not move tables. I do not operate. And again,
If people got up and felt moved to dance because the DJ was great that night, what does your staff do since you're not allowed to have dancing?
well, people usually, they're standing next to their table, they're standing in front of the bar. There's no restriction to, as to people standing, what they're doing. Dancing, again, like I said, I don't have a dancing permit. I do not, like, people are not dancing. If they're standing side to side swaying, it's not, I don't have like a dance off or anything like that.
So what does your staff do? Since dancing is not permitted on your license and is a violation of your lease, what does your staff do when they see people getting up after they finish dinner and start to dance at their table?
Well, people are standing at the bar. Usually it's never been where there is people, people are dancing. People are just standing next to each other. So we have never had an issue with that at all.
Okay. because I just want to clarify for the record, you know, when you came back before the board in 2014, several months after you had been granted a license, the decision by the board at the time, which predated me, specifically said that requests for live entertainment are taken very carefully and reviewed because of the impact that these requests have on the neighborhood, potentially creating unwanted noise issues and traffic and other issues that come up late at night.
Ms. Joyce, may I just interrupt for a moment? I'm not sure where the inquiry is going. I thought we were talking about this license here. I'm prepared to talk about the entertainment license if that's where you wish to go.
This is a license. This is a hearing before the entertainment board. We're not looking at Mr. Furman's liquor license. We're looking at his entertainment license.
I understand that, but I thought we were going on the basis of the allegations which were in the report that Officer Rooney just read. But if that's not the case, I do want to talk about the entertainment license and have
No,
you
not yet.
address that.
We're going to go through all the incident reports.
Okay.
I'm just saying that there's been a large number of calls and a large volume of calls and incidents occurring at the licensed premise that have required Boston Police Department's response. And I'm trying to determine if perhaps the entertainment license is contributing to why BPD has to be called down there. And if it's a strain on the resources or some sort of threat to public safety. So if there's an assault or an alleged assault outside a restaurant that has an entertainment license, I'm very concerned that there is perhaps a threat to public safety. And if it's connected to the entertainment license.
Ms. Joyce, I'm certainly aware of you both at your time at the licensing board there and also in terms of what you do here in the entertainment board. The characterization of a lot of calls, I have what I believe is the information that was part of this record. We're just going to go through it. I want to make sure I get everything on the record. No, I just was dealing with the characterization. You said a lot of resources of the police department, and I have five matters before me. So that's why I just wanted to clarify your representation as to the characterization of a large number of resources by the police department.
Okay. So I do not have any further questions for Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman.
Okay, so moving on to item number 2, LPV 008602, date of incident April 25th, 2021. Alleged incidents, shots fired at closing. Incident report 212-026593. Alleged incident, assault, aggravated, fully automatic handgun. And incident report 212-026593, supplemental report. Alleged incident, assault and battery, patron on patron. License premise violation 001816 was also issued. And a second supplemental report, report number 212-02659, alleged incident, shots fired. And one more, incident report 212-026941, alleged incident, vandalism. And Attorney Feaster, who is testifying on behalf of the police department?
That's Officer Matt Entwistle.
And then are there any individuals who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident that would like to testify? Okay, can all individuals please raise their right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Officer Entwistle, please proceed with the police report.
About 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, April 25th, 2021, officers Entwistle and Rooney assigned to the Alpha 103 Alpha responded to a radio call for shots fired at 162 Lincoln Street, Boston. Also responding was Sergeant St. Peter, Detective McDonald, Officer Elvin Lenahan McCarthy, Leo and Garcia, Downey, St. Fort, Joseph, and Flores. On arrival, Officer Rooney and Leo spoke with the victim, Waylon Chin. Chin stated he parked his vehicle, Mass Reg 33 Mike Fox 99, on the corner of Lincoln and Beach Street across from the corner pub. Chin stated he was on his way to the pub but had engaged in an altercation with a large group outside of his vehicle. Chin stated a large group of black males and 3 females were giving him a hard time about parking where the group had been congregating. Chin stated the group began stating racial slurs towards Chin, and one of the females called him a chink. Chin stated one of the females walked up to him, chest bumped him while continuing to state racial slurs. Chin stated after the female struck him, he struck back at multiple people. Chin stated he continued to strike and fight multiple people, then backed away and started walking across Lincoln and Beach Street towards the corner pub. Chin stated while he was disengaging from the disturbance, he observed a tall black male about 6'4", wearing a red hat, black t-shirt, walk to a white Mercedes sedan, reach inside and grab an unknown object. Chin stated the male walked towards the middle of the intersection and stated, "You want me to shoot you?" Chin stated he observed the male with the firearm in his right hand and fire the weapon 3 to 4 times up Lincoln Street towards Tuff Street. Chin stated he observed the firearm to be a pistol, but was unable to make out the make and color. It should be noted, Chin stated the suspect held the firearm close to his chest and shielded it with his left arm. Chin stated the shots were not in his direction and he believed they were warning shots. Chin fled into the corner pub while pedestrians fled the area. Chin stated the suspect ran back into the white Mercedes-Benz and fled up Lincoln Street. Officers Entwistle and Garcia spoke with 2 females who were on scene. Officer spoke with the first female, Lenice Farrier. Farrier was extremely intoxicated, but stated she'd been hit in the head by an Asian male who ran into the corner pub. Farrier denied any shots fired and claimed she had been attacked for no reason. Officers requested EMS on scene. It should be noted Farrier was not answering any questions from police officers. Officers spoke with Desire Rowland, who stated she had exited Savoy Restaurant and Lounge with Farrier. Rowland stated they exited the club. They were hanging out with a group of males that they had never met. Rowland stated when they were hanging out with the group, Chin and the group of black males started arguing about race, and Chin began to strike all the females in the group. When officers were asked about the shots fired, Rowland stated she observed the male with the gun, but was unable to give any description. Rowland was evaluated by Boston EMS. Officers located blood on the sidewalk where the fight had occurred. Officers also located 4 shell casings scattered throughout the intersection of Lincoln and Beach Street. Detective McDonald arrived on scene to process the scene. Officer Muckahyde, working the front desk in District A1, was able to track on camera the suspect's vehicle, a silver and gray Mercedes, flee up Lincoln Street and continue onto Summer Street. The vehicle continued up Summer to Winter Street and then taking a left-hand turn onto Tremont. Officers tracked the vehicle down Tremont until it reached Marginal Road. And that is my conclusion of the police report.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that we have the related incident reports read in at the same time, if that makes sense. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, also related to LPV 008602. Next one is 212-026593. Assault, aggravated, fully automatic handgun.
Yeah, that was the report I just read, ma'am.
Okay, the next one is supplemental report 1.
I did not write the supplemental report, ma'am, so I do not have that present with me today.
Okay. Is there another officer that could read in the supplemental report?
Sergeant Moy, perhaps.
I'm not sure. Good morning, it's Sergeant Moy. I'm not sure if I have that supplemental. I do have one supplemental, the 212-026-941, which was the next day. Is that the one you're talking about, ma'am?
No, but that one's connected to this too. You can read that one and that's one.
Okay,
4, 5.
so incident number 212-026-941. If Officer Giblin's on the call, it's his report. If not, I'll be happy to read it. I assume he's not on the report. I mean, not on the call, so I'll go ahead.
I'm here, Sarge.
Have you been
Can you go
sworn
ahead and
in?
read that?
You're gonna have to give me a second because I have the report for my incident on July
Yeah, take your time.
1st.
Officer Giblin, have you been sworn in by Rebecca yet?
No,
Okay, why don't we do that?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Thank you.
So the one we're looking for is 212-026-941, date of incident April 25th, police report written April 26th, alleged incident vandalism.
Yes, ma'am. I'm familiar with it, but I don't have that report in front of
Okay.
me.
Does anyone, Sergeant
I have the
Gallagher?
official police report in front of me. Do you want me to read it, Ms.
Yeah.
Joyce?
Yep, that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay, so incident report 212-026-941, written by Officer Giblin. I'll read it. Sergeant Moyle will be reading it. About 13:57 hours on Monday, April 26, 2021, Officer Giblin, assigned to the Alpha 437 Delta, responded to a radio call for a reporter found ballistics located at the Kenny Law Firm, located at 132 Lincoln Street, number 2R in Boston. Operations informed the responding officer that the reporting party believed that his office window was shot out. The reporting party discovered a shattered window and broken glass when he arrived to his office around 0900 hours. A1 detectives were notified. Upon arrival, Officer Giblin spoke with the reporting party / victim, Justin Kennedy, owner of the law firm. He stated that he discovered his window overlooking Lincoln Street was shattered when he arrived to his office. He said that he cleaned up the glass from the floor and subsequently notified police, believing that the hole in the window was from a gunshot. On the morning of April 25th, around 0130 hours, officers assigned to the A1 district respond to shots fired call at 162 Lincoln Street, referencing incident number 212-026-593. Officer Gilman observed a shattered window with a hole through both panes of glass. There also was damage to the window shades and slight damage to a nearby picture frame. Officer Gilman located a ballistic fragment underneath a couch inside of the office. A search through a wastebasket in which Mr. Kennedy had placed the broken glass and did not reveal any other evidence. The Alpha 801 Detective Webster, Alpha 802 Detective Horn, and the Alpha 806 Detective Wynn responded and photographed the scene, recovering the ballistic fragment. Mr. Kennedy was provided with the incident number for his records. That's the end of it, ma'am.
Thank you. So just going to read off these incident report numbers. 212-026-593. I think we read that one. The supplemental report to that one. Then there was supplemental report 2 to that one. For shots fired.
So, good morning, ma'am. Sergeant Moy again. So I'm looking at supplemental 1. I'll read that when you're ready. Is that okay?
Yep.
On 5/16/21 at approximately 10:06 p.m., Detective McDonald and Detective Curley conducted a Code 35 license premise violation at 180 Lincoln Street, Savoy Restaurant. Detective McDonald spoke to the owner, Eddie Furman, regarding the incident that took place on 4/25/21 at 0130. Detective issued LPV number 001816 for patron on non-patron assault and battery at the intersection of Lincoln and Beach Street.
Okay.
That was supplemental number 1. I do not believe I have supplemental number 2, ma'am.
Supplemental 2 is like one sentence long.
Is that the one I wrote, ma'am?
Yeah.
I don't have a copy of it, but I am the one that wrote the LPV.
Okay.
008602, and it should be just 2 sentences that on August 27, 2021, I respond to 180 Lincoln Street, and I issued a LPV 008602 to Mr. Furman for the violation of shots fired at closing time. That should be supplemental number 2, ma'am.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman?
Thank you, Ms. Joyce. Just one quick question. I know that Sergeant Boyd didn't do the supplemental report number 1, but I'm sure he's familiar. What is the CD35 licensed premises? Is that what takes place when it says it conducted a CD35 licensed premises violation at 180? What is the CD35? Sergeant Boyd?
Yes, sir. The CD35 is just our code. It stands for Code 35, which is basically police vernacular for that we're going into a licensed premise to issue a violation or to do a licensed premise check. So it's just an internal verbiage.
And in executing a CD 35, is that when you look to see whether the licenses are in place in order? Is that what occurs, or you just deliver the license premises violation?
That's one of the aspects, sir. So if you do an unannounced code 35, you want to make sure the licenses are displayed properly. But for example, when I did my code 35, I did not enter the licensed premise establishment. I met Mr. Furman at the door and I issued him his violation there. So it entails a number of responsibilities.
Right. I know that on the supplemental too, which you did write an issue, right? It doesn't indicate a CD 35, but would it be customary that if an officer does a CD 35, they do check for whether the license, and I know Detective Curry and Detective McDonald's were the ones on who did the supplemental here. I don't think either of them on the call.
Detective Curley should be on the call, sir.
Okay, well, I won't take up much of the time, but would it be correct to say that if an officer goes to do a CD 35, they will also check to make sure that the licenses are displayed and properly displayed, and if not, they would note that. Is that correct?
That they could. For example, I told you, like I went and did a CD 35. I did not note that. I didn't enter the licensed premise establishment. So they may or may not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to add anything, Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman?
Yeah. Well, again, I applaud the police officers in having done their job here. I will note, at least it's been brought to my attention, that the licensing board considered this issue as well and found no violation. So I just like that on the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. I just have one question, which I know we brought up on the liquor side, but this occurred at 1:30, and it sounds like one of the women who stated she exited Savoy Lounge, she was hanging out with a group of males. So that's one of the issues we take into consideration, is about your responsibilities for dispersing the crowd in front of your licensed premise when they exit. Mr. Furman, I know we talked about this before, but could you, for purposes of explaining, have you taken any, have you made any changes to your staffing as far as disbursement of crowds outside? I know at one point there was kind of what we discussed, an attractive nuisance with the outdoor dining. Have you done anything to make that not such an attractive nuisance?
Sure. Since we last spoke, since the last hearing, absolutely changes has been made. I've submitted a dispersal plan back to Leslie, after the hearing, when we were found no violation was issued. Yes, we do have up to 10 security staff who are normally outside, at closing time, who are, they have flashlight, they are directing folks to their cars, they are telling people to keep it moving, to turn the music down, to move away. Also, since then, I've had to close the patio, so it's fully chained, and I believe I mentioned that to you. So there was no access to the patio. There were no tables, no chairs. Pretty much, we're not using it. It's no one have access to it. Also, want to point out that day, just regarding that event, we submitted the videos. Videos prove, have all the proofs in there. So I don't think anything else needs to be said, but as of now, the patio is no longer in use because we thought that, will deter people from hanging out. And we have beefed up the security staff, up to 10 staff outside, and directing traffic, getting people to their cars in a timely fashion. So those are the changes we've made.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. We can move on to number 3, Rebecca.
Yep. Okay. License premise violation number 008603, date of incident August 14th, 2021. Alleged incident, assault and battery, employee on patron. Incident report 212-056-825. Alleged incident, assault simple. Incident report, same number, supplemental report number 1, assault and battery between patron and employee. And that's it. And who is testifying on behalf of the police department?
Officer Giblin was present on that for that incident report, and you can read the incident report.
Officer Giblin?
Yeah, which one is this one again? I'm sorry.
So this is the incident report numbered 212-056-825 connected to LPV 008603.
Okay.
August
Yeah.
14.
Again, I apologize for not being prepared. I'm only prepared to talk about the one that I've received the notification about. So I
Okay.
have that report in front of me.
Okay, does someone else have the report? Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, I have the report again. If it's okay with the board, I'll go ahead and read it on behalf of Officer Giblin. So incident number 212-056-825, written by Officer Giblin and be read off by Sergeant Moy. About 12:18 a.m. on Saturday, 8/14/2021, Officers Yuka and Giblin in the Alpha 202 Alpha respond to a radio call for assault and battery in progress at 180 Lincoln Street, Boston. Upon arrival, officers met with the caller/victim, Ramses Lozer, who stated that one of the bouncers from the above address assaulted him. The victim stated that he was told by the bouncers that he can't enter unless he removes his hat, and at the time the victim was telling the bouncers that he is willing to bet there are people inside with hats on. The victim then stated that all of a sudden he got punched and pushed by one of the bouncers. He also stated that he dropped his iPhone as he got pushed, which caused the phone screen to get damaged. The victim had no description for the bouncer. All he said is that it was a black man. Officer also spoke with the owner of the above address, Eddie Furman, who stated that the victim gives them a hard time every time he shows up. The owner said that tonight the victim was not willing to remove his hat in order to enter, and because he couldn't enter, he made a big scene. That's the conclusion, ma'am.
Thank you. And do you have the supplemental one in front of you?
I do not. Is that the one I wrote regarding the LPV?
Yeah,
No, but basically, I wrote the same supplement for all the LPVs that on August 27, 2021, at about 17:57 hours, I responded to 180 Lincoln Street, and I issued at the doorway to Mr. Furman, LPV 008603.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman, do you want to begin? Do you have any questions for?
Yes, I know that Officer Sergeant Moy wasn't the one who issued the reports. I can't ask him this, but maybe Officer Giblin, if he's still on. I just want to ask him, and if Sergeant Moy wants to respond as well, that'd be great. Is it customary just to take the word of someone that they said that they were assaulted by someone, or is there further investigation that's done?
I would generally answer that by, like, if somebody makes an accusation that an assault occurs, we, make our best attempt to try to ascertain the circumstances of somebody saying that there was an assault, sir.
Did you, again, I know this was August 14th, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast, so I'm gonna ask you the question nonetheless. Was Mr. Ramses Lozier, did he evidence any, since he said he was punched in the face, any redness or bruises or battery, anything that you observed? I know your report doesn't note that. So can I assume that he didn't evidence any physical injury as having been assaulted? Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, sir. To my recollection, in my partner at the time, Officer Uka, he's the author of the report. I just pulled up the report just now. If he did not mention in the report that he had any sort of visible evidence of an injury, then we did not observe any. And by looking at his report here, it also doesn't say anything about an EMS response. So I imagine that he declined that.
Okay. Thank you very much. If I might, Ms. Joyce, I can have Mr. Furman respond since he made a statement in this. Would that be appropriate?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Pisa. Also, again, like it's mentioned, I did speak with the officer that night. I was outside. We spoke, and pretty much he said, well, you know, you were there. There was no need to take it any further. We spoke with the guy. I forgot his name already. So he moved away. He walked away, and there was nothing else to follow. And when I spoke with the officer, he said, well, you know, we did what you could, and that was the best case scenario, and everything was left at that. I didn't expect to get a violation or anything, because the way it was left was that, you know, everything was fine.
Can I
Okay.
just ask one further piece on that, Mr. Furman? Now, it's noted in this report that you stated that Mr. Lozier is that night was regarding not wanting to wear his hat, but he seems to be a problem person which you wanted to keep out of your club. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. No further questions, Mr. Joyce.
I don't have any other questions on this one.
Okay. Next violation, number 008604, date of incident July 31st, 2021. Alleged incident, robbery outside of 180 Lincoln Street. Incident report 212-052887, alleged incident robbery. And the supplemental report to that, alleged incident robbery in front of Savor. Who's present on behalf of the police?
Officer Giblin, then.
And are there any individuals who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident that would like to testify? Okay, you may proceed with the police report.
About 0232 hours on Saturday, July 31st, 2021, Officer Giblin assigned to the Alpha 432 Alpha and Officer Jones assigned to the Alpha 412 Alpha responded to a radio call to investigate a person at South Street and Tough Street, Boston. Upon arrival, officers encountered Erica Freeman and Kendrick Hood visibly upset. Ms. Freeman stated that she was assaulted outside of 180 Lincoln Street and her iPhone 11, her driver's license, and 2 debit cards were stolen from her. She stated that she wanted to file a police report on the incident. Ms. Freeman stated that she could not identify the female that had assaulted her and stole her belongings. She was advised to contact her financial institutions to report her debit cards as stolen and have them replaced. She also stated that she had insurance on her iPhone. Officer stated that to her that a report would be completed and mailed to her residence in order for her to file a claim on her phone. Prior to this incident, officers responded to the area of 180 Lincoln Street for a report of multiple fights in progress. Officers were unable to identify a suspect that may have been involved in this incident, and no description was provided. Officers escorted Ms. Furman to her vehicle parked in the area where she was able to leave safely. Ms. Freeman declined EMS response. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. So that was 2887. There's a very brief supplemental one that I think Sergeant Moy may have written.
Yes, ma'am. So again, it reads the same as the other ones on 8/27/2021 at about 17:55 hours in the evening. I responded at 180 Lincoln Street, met Mr. Furman at the doorway of 180 Lincoln Street Savor Restaurant, issued LPV 008604 for the incident that occurred outside of his establishment.
Okay. So just for my own edification, on July 31st, when Officer Giblin responded, he was just responding to the incident at hand. And then Sergeant Moy, you go back and you write them up. If any incident occurs at a licensed premise, you would go back and write up a licensed premise report, right?
Correct, ma'am. So it's not uncommon for like the officers that already testified that on some Friday, Saturday nights, it's very busy and they're running from one call to another. And sometimes the supervisor on scene or the patrol supervisor doesn't have the time to go back to issue the LPV. So I'll review reports and issue the LPVs if need be.
Okay, thank you. So Rebecca, the next one is number 4.
Oh, did
Oh,
Attorney
Ms. Joyce, you have
Feaster?
an opportunity.
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
inquire? No, that's okay. I know we're moving along here, and I like to have us move along as well. So Just want to ask Officer Giblin, did you ascertain whether Ms. Freeman and Ms. Hood had were patrons of Savor, or just happened to have this incident occur and that's the address you were in front of?
No, sir, we weren't in front of Savor when we encountered Miss Freeman and Mr. Hood. They were around the corner from that establishment at South and Tough Street. Typically when I write reports and I start off by saying that when we are dispatched to a location, I put that in the first paragraph. My encounter with Mr. Hood and Miss Freeman was at South and Tufts and not in front of the nightclub or 180 Lincoln.
So, okay, I thank you for that clarification, but if I'm just going to raise it from my knowledge from what one does when they do parking violations, or if they come to a meter and you're parked in front of it, they put that address on as the address where the violation took place. Why wouldn't this one have been the address where you, as opposed to 180 Lincoln Street? There's no evidence that Erica Freeman or Kendrick Wood even frequented Savor. And so by placing that on it, that suggests that the incident occurred there versus where you encountered them. Would that, why would you put down 180 Lincoln if you encountered them at another address?
Sir, I direct your attention to the second paragraph of my report. Upon arrival, officers encountered Erica Freeman and Kendrick Hood visibly upset. Ms. Freeman stated that she was assaulted outside of 180 Lincoln Street.
Okay. All right. Yes, but not knowing whether she was in the club. Okay. I think I've established you didn't ascertain whether they at all were patrons at Savor. The other one that you said they were there again, you note in here that there were multiple fights in progress. Again, it states that you were unable to identify a suspect, but say in the area of 180 Lincoln Street, I ask once again, do you have any knowledge that any of those persons involved there were patrons of Savor?
That I cannot answer. Short answer, no.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Ms. Joyce.
Okay, thanks. I don't have any further questions on this one.
Okay. Next violation, number 008605, date of incident, April 27th, 2021. Alleged incident, verbal dispute, rear of 180 Lincoln Street. Incident report 212027359. Alleged incident, assault, aggravated. Incident report, same number above, supplemental report. Alleged incident, patron, argument causing a disturbance. LPV 001815. And incident report, supplemental report number 2, alleged incident, verbal dispute, LPV 008601. Who will be testifying on behalf of the Boston Police?
That will be me. Give me 1 second. I'm just walking to a more quieter place. 1 second. Sorry about that, Officer McGovern.
Okay, and are there any individuals who have personal knowledge of the alleged incident that would like to testify? Okay, Officer McGovern, can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed with the police report.
So about 10:48 p.m. Tuesday, April 27, 2021, myself, Officer Obreo, along with Officer Roca and Officer Brooks, responded to a radio call for a fight at Beach in Utica. Upon arrival, the officers located a male and female in the rear of 180 Lincoln Street. which is Sabor Restaurant Lounge, arguing with each other. Officers stopped to talk with the individuals, and the female became extremely confrontational. Both parties appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. The female began shouting statements such as, "Don't kill him, I know my rights, he's an unarmed Black man." The female shouted that her name was Morgan Taylor, but would not provide additional information. After several attempts of the females interfering with the officers, the male party agreed to talk with the officers. The male identified himself as Maxwell Morgan. He told the officers that he was having a verbal dispute with another male inside of Sabor. Mr. Morgan stated that the other person brandished a handgun, causing him to back away. Mr. Morgan and Miss Taylor were then escorted out of the restaurants via the back door by security. Mr. Morgan described the suspect as a Black male wearing a play shirt and did not provide further info. Due to the victim's intoxication, inability to cooperate, and the crowd of bystanders beginning to assemble, provoking officers, the officers instructed the victims to leave the area and return back to their vehicle. Shortly after, the officers entered Sabor and spoke with the manager, Eddie Furman. He told the officers that there was an argument involving the victim and another male. He stated the argument was about Miss Taylor. Both parties were separated by the bouncers and escorted out in different exits. The staff then told the officers that the victim was escorted back to his vehicle for extra safety. Mr. Furman told the officers that a firearm was not displayed, nor did anyone allude to one. At that time, we notified Sergeant Shaughnessy of the license premise violation, and he stated that he would complete one.
Thank you. Is someone available to read the first supplemental report to this one? I think written by Detective Conley or Walsh.
Yes, ma'am. Sergeant Moy here. They're not present.
Okay.
However, I have the report in front of me, so I'll read that.
Okay. Thanks.
So at about 10:37 p.m. on Friday, 5/7/21, Detectives Conley, the Alpha 809, and Walsh, the Alpha 803, respond to Savor Restaurant and Lounge, which is located at 180 Lincoln Street in Boston. On arrival, the detectives were met by the restaurant manager, Alex Vilmy. Detectives informed Vilmy they were there in regards to the incident that occurred on 4/27/21 at about 10:48 p.m. Vilmy showed detectives a license that were clearly displayed. LPV 001815 was issued for patron argument causing disturbance. That's the end of that, ma'am.
Thank you. And then there's a second supplemental report written by you.
Yes, ma'am. Again, give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I believe on August 27, 2021, at about 7:39 hours, I, Sergeant Moy, respond to 180 Lincoln Street, met Mr. Furman at the doorway, issued LPV 008605 for the verbal dispute and disturbance in the rear of 180 Lincoln Street.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Feaster, Mr. Furman, do you want to go first? Questions for?
I'm going to have Mr. Furman respond, but in your response, Mr. Furman, would you please put on the record exactly what your procedures are if an altercation occurs there and what the duties and responsibilities of your bouncers are in that regard?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Mr. Fisa. Again, as noted in the previous licensing hearing, so what we did at the day we observed the argument between the young lady and another male. So what we did, so security got involved before anything escalated. So we decided to separate the two parties, escorted them in a different direction, and especially the young lady and her male friend. So we escorted them outside, and literally we walked them to their cars. So we normally make sure that they are safe, and we don't just just have them go outside. So on that day, we follow the same procedures. So the second that security staff observed anything as anything disamounting that can escalate to something that's going to be problematic, they usually act fast and they are very reactive. So that day, we followed the same procedures. Somebody went out the front door and we escorted the guys to the back because he said his car was right in the back on South Street. And that's exactly what we did. So when the officer came in, we spoke to him. I spoke to him because I'm always there. And I clearly stated that, this is what happened. He understood, and he asked me if there was a gun. I said, no, there was no gun garnished by anywhere. We didn't even know, nothing was, again, that was a surprise to us. that a gun was mentioned at all. And that was it.
Can I just inquire further, Ms. Joyce?
Sure.
In your procedures for people getting access to your restaurant, do you have a medical detector? Do you have a wand? What do you do to check for weapons?
So my security staff usually up front. So usually they do a thorough job patting everybody down in terms of, you know, if a young lady have a pocketbook, have them open the pocketbook to see, ascertain what's inside. So it's a thorough check that goes on. So no one is ever walk in that, you know, free willing and not being checked at the door.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions, Ms. Joyce.
Thank you. So, Mr. Furman, you stated that your procedures are to walk both parties out through separate doors into their cars.
Yes,
Okay, and you're stating that you walked the people out the back door into their car?
their cars, yes.
Did you see them get in the car?
Yes, they got in car. Then when we came back, we thought they left, and she came out the car. She got out the car. I guess they were screaming at each other. So that's how everything escalated in the back.
So she was screaming at the person that went out the front door?
No, she was screaming at the person she was with. The argument was amongst the two of them.
So you saw them screaming out the back door? After
No.
you escorted them to their car, you saw them screaming outside?
No, I did not. We did
Oh,
not know.
you were not aware?
No, we were not aware, because once we put them in the car, they were in the car, then we went back in. So we didn't know anything until the police officers came in and said they were still outside arguing and
So
talking.
who called the police in this incident?
It says 911 caller. I'm not sure.
Okay. So maybe this is a question for the officers. You received a 911 call for a fight and 4 officers responded. Is that standard practice for 4 officers to respond to a fight at a bar in Boston?
Yes, man. We don't know how many people were involved in the fight. So you always want to have more officers just for safety.
Okay.
We were told it was a verbal dispute, so I don't know if it was a fight. It was a verbal dispute of some sort. They were shouting.
Well, the first sentence of the officer's incident report says they responded to a radio call for a fight at Beach in Utica.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so 4 officers responded and the fight occurred between the 2 people that you escorted to their car, but they did not leave. And they had previously been inside your licensed premise?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to clarify, it wasn't a fight. What the officers observed was they were arguing,
Yes.
and those are the
I know,
two
I'm just saying,
Oh,
we're getting
oh,
to the
but
point of responding to radio calls and a
Okay,
strain on resources. So when you get a call for a fight at a bar and 4 officers have to respond, that's what I'm trying to get at.
yeah.
It's only when they get there that they can determine that it was a verbal altercation and not a fight. They're responding to the radio call.
And
So
I'm
what-
sure it's probably
What's
one of
going on
those
this night? This
individuals
was
that called.
10:48 PM. I think was a Sunday night. Was this also a dinner service?
Actually, that was a Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. Okay.
Tuesday. And again, from the violation that I'm reading off of, I don't understand how it was a fight. There was never a fight outside. It says verbal dispute because they were shouting loud.
Okay.
So that's what was said to me when the officer came in. It was the fact that they were just out in the back screaming.
So you were there that night, Mr. Furman?
Yes, I was. I spoke with the officer. I forgot his name. That was just on that
And are
day.
you familiar with the people that were fighting?
No,
Okay, you didn't know them?
no.
Okay. Do you remember how long they were in your bar? I mean, I'm sorry, your restaurant?
They went to the restaurant. They came. It was again that day was a Taco Tuesday. They came in at 6 o'clock. So at the time, no, I want to say maybe 7. So for an hour, a couple of hours, maybe max.
But you didn't know them?
No, I just seeing them. Yeah, I
Do you ever like hire promoters?
No,
You don't hire promoters?
no, there were no promoters again. It
So
was just
these
it
are
was the
people,
thing.
since you work at your restaurant all the time, you would be familiar with most of your patrons, right? So these people were new to you?
Well, there are people, there are faces that I'm familiar with, but those no, I was not familiar
Okay,
with.
so no promoters?
No.
Okay. Okay, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Moving on to violation number 008606. Date of incident, August 14th, 2021. Alleged incident, assault on police officer, disturbance, shots fired. Incident report 212-056-857. Alleged incident, firearm, weapon found or confiscated. supplemental report to that incident, alleged incident vandalism, supplemental report number 2, alleged incident recovered drugs, supplemental report number 3, alleged incident assault on police officer, disturbance, shots fired, LPV 008606. Who is testifying on behalf of the police department?
So ma'am, it should be Officer Sosa wrote the report, the original one. Is he on the call by chance?
So that's she, Officer Stavalis Sosa, is she on?
I do not see a Sosa in the,
I have the report that's quite lengthy. Do you wish for me to read it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so incident number 212-056-857, written by Officer Sosa, read by Sergeant Moy. And it goes about 2:20 a.m. on Saturday, 8/14/2021, Officer Sosa, the Alpha 432 Alpha, and Officer Merrick's, the Alpha 411 Alpha, were responding to a radio call for a group causing a disturbance at 180 Lincoln Street. The call came in from an employee at the corner pub who stated there was about 30 drunk individuals in front of the business that refused to move. The officers observed multiple cars double parked and groups gathered. The officers approached a gray Nissan Maxima with mass registration 9MB, as in Mike Bravo, 773, that was double parked on Lincoln and Beach Street. There was a female in the driver's seat of the Nissan, and her friends were trying to stop her from driving and wanted her to get out of the driver's seat. Officer Merrick was standing in front of the gray Nissan and instructed the unidentified female to get out of the vehicle multiple times. The female then put the vehicle in drive and attempted to drive off, tapping Officer Merrick with the vehicle. Officer Merrick then immediately tapped the hood of the vehicle to alert the female he was there and she was about to run him over. The unidentified female eventually put the car in park and jumped over to the passenger side and exited the vehicle from the front passenger door. A male, later identified as Troy Bowens, became irate after observing the officer's attempt to stop the vehicle. Troy Bowens stated that it was his girlfriend and his car. Troy Bowens then started verbally arguing with Officer Merrick. The officers instructed all parties there to get in their vehicles and clear out multiple times, including the angered Troy Bowens. At that point, the two males, later identified as Leon Edmonds and William Williams, also tried telling Troy Bowens to leave. And that angered Troy Bowens even more, and he then started arguing with Leon Edmonds and William Williams. It should be noted that the incident was captured on Officer Sosa's body-worn camera. At approximately 2:44 a.m., Troy Bowens then gets into the gray Nissan Maxima with mass registration 9MB773 and drives off. Edmonds and Williams also leave the scene around the same time in a different vehicle that was unidentified at the time. A short period of time after that, as the officers were heading back to their cruisers, they heard about 8 to 10 shots fired in the direction of Service Road near the Chinatown Gate. Both officers ran down Beach Street towards Service Road to investigate, and Officer Sosa notified Channel 2 dispatcher of the shots fired. Officer Merrick and Sosa crossed over Service Road and were headed toward Essex Street when Officer Merrick observed 2 gray sedans driving down around Kingston Street and Edinburgh Street, and then sped off down 93 North. Officer Merrick relayed this information to dispatch. Shortly after officer's observation, a 911 call was placed for shots fired. The following information was relayed to all responding units by the Channel 2 dispatcher. The 911 caller stated that there was a male with a gun at Kingston Street and Bedford Street. Caller also stated that the suspect drove off in a gray Honda and went down 93 North. The caller followed the suspect's vehicle and gave dispatch a mass registration of 2 Mike Sierra Alpha 27.
Sergeant Boy, I'll interrupt. If it's okay with all parties, we can skip with the remainder reading of the police report.
I'm happy with that. It's very lengthy.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree, Ms. Joyce.
All right. Thank you. How about the supplemental report?
I don't have the supplementals, but I believe the supplement number 2 is the one I authored. Again,
Okay.
the same thing. If you allow me to read it really quickly, is that on August 27th, 2021, at about 17:51 hours, I handed Mr. Furman at the doorway of 180 Lincoln Street a license premise violation 008606 for the assault and battery on a police officer, disturbance, and shots fired.
Yeah, that's supplemental report 3, but we'll take that one. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to get myself organized here. All right, thank you, Sergeant Malloy. Attorney Feaster, Mr. Furman, do you have any questions?
Well, I first want to say I feel for the job that our police officers have to contend with in dealing with these situations, particularly in finding these persons with weapons and things of that nature. So I applaud you for the work you certainly do there in preventing some of these things. But again, I know we didn't read the full report, but I know you have seen it, Sergeant Moy. Would it be fair to say that the incidents with regards to the shots and the guns and the locations of where these individuals were stopped and apprehended were well away from 180 Lincoln Street?
Yes, when the vehicle was stopped and the items were seized and the person was arrested, it was not near 180 Lincoln Street.
In fact, I think it was heading on to 93 South.
Correct. The original
Marginal Road, I think it was.
I believe it was Melnia Cass.
In fact,
originally,
yeah, that's so they were Melnia Cass and Kingston and Bedford.
It started at Kingston and Bedford. Originally went on 93 northbound, but then the suspects headed back 93 southbound, and they were stopped by the Massachusetts State Police, I believe, at Melnia Cass.
And as I note the report here, it says that this was about 2:20 in the morning on Saturday, August 14th.
If that's what the report said, I
That's
believe
what
so,
the
sir.
report states here. And the report does not indicate whether it was established whether these individuals were patrons of Savor. At least what I can tell. I know you didn't author it, but I don't believe it's in there. But I'll just put on the record, Ms. Joyce, I don't believe that it does state whether they were patrons of Savor. And if I'm wrong, the report will indicate that I misspoke. No
Okay.
further questions. Mr. Furman, do you have anything in response to this incident?
No question.
Mr. Furman, were you working this night?
I was there that night.
So what's your take on what happened?
Again, so anything that happens the way the violation was issued about, I believe, 3 weeks later when he came to me. I was unaware that there were shots fired on Kingston Street. I mean, I had no business on Kingston Street, so I have no idea what happened.
Okay. Thank you. And the last item on today before us for this hearing, Rebecca.
So I just want to read into the record that there was a list that we sent out of 911 responses near the area since September 2nd, 2020. So the last item that we have.
One second. I have some questions about the 911 calls.
Oh, okay.
Attorney Feaster, Mr. Furman, did you see the list of 911 calls?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I saw the list. Is that the one starting with the date of August 27th? Ms. Joyce, is that the sheet you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I saw that, and for instance, the one for, if I'm reading these correctly, 821 says that the caller is calling from Quincy about a club that is overcrowded. That's what that said. So, I question the veracity of that. 814 says female employee at the corner pub trying to close up the building and leaves about 30 DK. I guess that means the drunk persons in front of her business. 814, the next one is the violation 8603, which we already basically disposed of or discussed.
Mhm.
8 says well, I'm not sure I can read all of the shorthand, but lots of cars double parked. Caller states lots of cars double parked. I'm getting pretty good at this, Sergeant Moy, and learning how to read police speak. But yeah, 8-7, a rowdy crowd from the above, about 50 people pushing and shoving, etc. So yeah, I see in terms of there's even one that goes back to many. This list consists of many addresses here, including one which talks about a caller wants to report a guy that's across from above address seems to be on drugs, dump a whole bag of clothes out on the sidewalk. That was I believe that date was May of 2021. And then we have a list of things going on at several addresses on Lincoln Street, 80 Lincoln Street, 176 Lincoln Street, 1 Lincoln Street, 179 Lincoln Street, 174 Lincoln Street, all types of crimes that have taken place. So I see the list, Ms. Joyce. I see it, but it seems to me that it is probably generated as we ask in many other settings in terms of the transparency as to what the police department has to contend with. It looks like there are, at least from that period of time from this date, from September 2nd, 2020 to August 27, 2021, there have been several different types of incidents unrelated to my clients that occurred on Lincoln Street and the surrounding area.
Okay. Is Captain Chicolo on the call?
Yes.
Yes, I am. Sorry about that. I had
Thanks,
to, while I was listening assiduously. So
I just want to ask either you or Sergeant Moy, in your professional opinion, working in this neighborhood and responding to calls at this licensed premise and other licensed premise, is this a typical number of 911 calls you would get for a restaurant in Boston?
no, it is not. And I mean, there are lots of other restaurants in the area that we don't seem to have late night issues, problems with. The Leather District as a whole has a number of restaurants, and we almost never get any calls for them as they're functioning as restaurants.
Okay. And in your professional opinion, is this a burden on your resources?
Yeah, I mean, as a result, as Mr. Furman knows, I don't know if Mr. Feaster knows, as the result of the community complaints, we've been, the last few weeks, we've had to post a car down there at closing time to monitor for disturbances and so on. Every time we respond, I think everybody's aware of the resource constraints that the police department is working on that are, quite frankly, substantially less than they have been in the past. I've got people robbing people down around Quincy Market. I've got a theater district with, a dozen different clubs to monitor. And instead they end up having to go over to this neighborhood where, quite frankly, not much happens other than at least late at night associated with Savor.
Okay. Thank you. Would you say this, when your team is responding, that it's often responding to people lingering right outside Savor? Is that what the response is?
The space directly in front of Savor, the space that was the outside dining,
Mm-hmm.
would be a problem area, people congregating in that area. I know Mr. Furman said that the space is locked up, but that was not the case on the one occasion that I went by. And as well as the, I forget what he had, if you want to call it, the vine shielding or whatever that was made it difficult and created a detractive nuisance there for people to gather outside.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate your time on this morning and for joining us today. I don't have any other questions for Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman or Captain Chicolo or Sergeant Moy.
Well, Ms. Joyce, I would like to have some ending statements. I mean, last exchange found a little bit distressing in terms of the characterization. So I just wanted to explore that a bit. And then I also would like to, because I wasn't privy to, I am familiar with what the entertainment, the Office of Consumer Affairs and Licensing must consider in these instances. And I want to make sure I have a complete record for you to consider. So I want to do that. And I won't take up much of your time. I say about 5 more minutes. But I do want to speak to I know Office Captain Cicolo, I'm sorry.
Chicolo.
Chicolo.
Oh yeah, I just, I got to.
BH.
Yeah, okay, I got to get it right there, Captain. I want to definitely do that. As I'm looking at the list here of this, you say in terms of an exhaustion of your resources, and I think that anything that the great men and women of the in blue have to contend with is beyond the pale of what one should have to do, but it is the job that one has undertaken. But in this particular instance, I'm looking at a list which, quite frankly, has 6 items that were on here, and if I were making a judgment call, some or most of them I would dismiss, but that's not my call to make. That's for Ms. Joyce to make that determination. But I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matters that range from July 31st to August 21st. I believe I would, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Furman, you've been at that location for 8 years, 9 years.
Yep.
And I say, I mean, that needs to speak to something. So one characterizes that this is a trouble location. Again, that's a judgment call. But any use of the resources certainly is troubling. But as I pointed out in the report that was given, that was part of this record, there is on Lincoln Street a number of circumstances unrelated to my client's.
Attorney Feaster, I understand.
Okay, so I just want to put on the
general
record.
location. I'm not pinning them to Savor or Mr. Furman. It goes towards police resources in this general area, and he's a restaurant owner and in this area, so he falls within that general area. So
that's right. Okay.
It goes to, just as we said in our hearing notice, it goes to the volume of calls and incidents occurring at or near the licensed premise. So that's why we have the 911 call list. So I don't know.
All right, but if you're going to consider whether my client,
we're not trying to determine whether or not they were valid or not. It's just
well, I understand that, but in considering whether my client has some way abridged it, the granting of his entertainment license, I have to take into it. I have to at least put on the record to you that in terms of whether it's direct bearings on it, his license says that, and he has testified to, 1, he's allowed to stay open to 2 a.m. And I'd like for you to speak to let's talk about the operation you now have only on certain nights. Let's put on the record. I know you do Tuesday, Friday, Saturdays. Do you need that? I see you shaking your head, Ms. Joyce. Is it saying that you know that, or?
I have his license right in front of me. We still have one more.
Okay. I'll do it at the end then. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So this is the last incident that was issued on September 11th, 2021, number 212-064-759. The incident is an assault simple, including premise operating as a nightclub with patrons standing elbow to elbow and many of them dancing. And who is testifying on behalf of the police?
It appears Officer Sosa wasn't able to make it on, and since I was actually present for at least the half of the incident, with the chairman's permission, I'll read this into the record and then speak.
And I cannot remember if I swore you in earlier. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Proceed with the police report.
At about 1 a.m. on Saturday, September 11th, 2021, Officer Sosa in the Alpha 435A unit, while on a fixed code 19 at 180 Lincoln Street, observed an altercation in front of Savour. On scene, Officer Sosa approached the entrance of Savour, where two then unidentified females were verbally arguing. While Officer Sosa was talking to one of the females, who later identified herself as Krishna Brito, a third female, who was later identified as Shania Hunter, threw her beverage at Officer Sosa and Krishna Brito. Officer Sosa then notified the Channel 2 dispatcher and requested additional units to respond to her location. The Alpha 101, Alpha Charlie 1, Captain Chicolo, the Alpha 101A, Roca and Mejia, 102A, Rooney and Entwistle, Alpha 426A, Elvin, and Officer 436, Giblin, all responded. While the officers were off with the two females that were arguing, Cora Jones Ward punched Krishna Brito in the face. Krishna Brito, as a result of this attempted to fight back, but officers on scene stopped her. While they were doing so, Miss Brito attempted to punch Officer Roca and missed, then proceeded to push Officer Roca to the ground. Cora Jones Wood was placed under arrest for assault and battery and disturbing the peace. Krishna Priya Brito was placed under arrest for A and B and a police officer and disturbing the peace. Shania Hunter was placed under arrest for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon and disturbing the peace. They were transported all of them were transported to District 1. During the booking process, Cora Jones stated that while inside of Savour, Krishna Brito poked her on the left side of her stomach with something sharp, and that's what started the argument. Detective Walsh searched Cora during the booking process and had her lift the left side of her shirt to examine her for any injuries. She did not observe any visible injuries and asked Cora if she needed medical attention. She denied the need for Boston EMS to respond. Noted that there had been multiple license premise violations for Savour. Those are the ones we've just discussed here. As a result, I responded. I told them to disperse the outside line. There was still a line there in place to enter the premises. I then entered the premises with 4 officers. They had their body cameras on to make observations within the premise. And I observed it to be operating, I'll read the text and then speak, to be operating as a nightclub with almost all the patrons standing elbow to elbow and many of them dancing. I ordered the staff to close for the night and waited outside with the officers. While we were waiting for the patrons to exit, we observed them doing so, holding clear plastic cups with their beverages still in hand. The report said that Sergeant Whiteman was going to issue the license premise violation, but that didn't happen. We went by a couple times and the place was closed. So I believe the division made notice to Mr. Furman and his attorney by electronically.
Okay.
So, you know, we had the community complaints. We had the description of it as operating as a nightclub. I'm there at a fight. There's, obvious allegations that part of the incident had taken place inside. So go inside to take a look. And as it describes. Tables were pushed back. There were patrons dancing. Almost everyone appeared to be standing, except from folks back along the walls. I did not observe, any food being served, any silverware on tables, anything like that. It appeared to me to be a standard nightclub setup.
Okay. Captain, you forwarded the video from your body cam to the department, right?
I did. I forwarded 2 body camera videos. One is Officer Sosa's video of her interactions outside from the time she exited her cruiser to, I believe, the time she placed the prisoner in her car. And the other is, I forget which officers, one of the officers' body camera video that entered the premise with me.
Okay. Thank you. Attorney Feaster or Mr. Furman, do you want to respond?
I just
or
wanted
any
to-
questions for Captain Chicolo?
No, I don't. I'll have Mr. Furman speak to that evening. He was there. With regards to those videos that were submitted as far as evidence to the department, is that something which I would make available to Mr. Furman and me?
I
Okay.
submitted to the board.
Yeah,
Right.
for them.
Well, I'm just making my request now to Ms. Joyce, if I can have those. But Mr. Furman, can you speak to that particular night? Because there's a characterization that you have a nightclub and folks were dancing and folks were leaving with drinks and et cetera. And I guess the only question I would have, I do have one for the captain. If people were leaving a premises with alcohol, is that, I know this is in Bourbon Street, so I know, is that permissible? Why weren't people arrested?
It is in fact an arrestable offense. It's drinking in a public way.
Mhm.
Does discretion dictate that we're going to try to lock somebody up for a drink in a plastic cup in the midst of trying to disperse and end a fight? I think that probably would not count as de-escalating.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Furman. Can you respond?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Feaster. Again, as we said, I was invited to a neighborhood meeting with the captain, City Councilor Ed Flynn, and the neighborhood association, just about a month ago. So again, I know about the push, and I know about the movement that's going on in the neighborhood. Mind you, I've been there for about 8 years now, and the movement that's going on in terms of trying to shut, my business down.
Mr. Furman,
Yeah,
could you respond to the police report?
yeah.
We've already had multiple conversations about the meeting.
Oh,
I'd just like to respond to what was going on this evening.
Okay.
And,
Well,
you were working there that night, and can
I
you
was there that night,
explain?
it's like any typical evening. So we do have food. We serve food.
Wait, excuse me, Mr. Furman, it was a typical evening?
Yes, there was.
What
nothing.
I see on the body camera will be a typical evening at Savoy?
Well, yeah, people standing, because I don't have restriction as people standing in front of the bar. We serve food until
What
1
time do you
o'clock,
serve food until?
till 1 o'clock in the morning. And
Okay.
the captain saying there was no food, there was nothing being served. Mind you, the area that they came in for about 5 seconds and stood and turned around and went back. So people were eating. I still have receipts. I have sales of food. We serve food. We have takeout. We have,
So if people are dancing around their table and not eating, explain to me how you encourage people to stop dancing, because you've testified several times today that this is a restaurant, unless
Yes,
you're telling me today that you're a nightclub.
it's a restaurant and lounge that permits people to stand, for me to have music, to have live music, to have a DJ, to have TV. So people are standing by the table, people are standing in front of the bar, people are standing and congregating. So therefore, I don't have a designated dance floor, just like.
That doesn't matter. If you push your tables away and people are dancing on your floor, that is considered.
For the record, I've said I do not push tables away. I do not push tables away. The same thing that happened in.
Do your guests push tables away?
No one is allowed to push any tables away. Tables.
Okay, so I have a question. So you testified earlier today that you don't have any promoters. in preparation for today's hearing, because this took up a lot of time of my time as executive director, I did a little research online.
Okay.
What is Saturday Vibes? What is this other one that I easily found? It states that it actually R&B brunch.
Okay. Everything is that in-house.
Through Eventbrite. So that to me says it's a promoter. It actually says here, questions that your patrons might be asking. Is there a cover charge? No. How do I reserve for brunch? Seats are first come, first serve. Am I required to wear a mask? No. You're required to wear a mask in the city of Boston. How many people can I have? It goes on. And then it actually describes it as a brunch and day party. And somewhere on here it said dancing. R&B brunch from 1 to 4, Savour Lounge. Dancing. It's actually advertised as dancing.
It's advertised as dancing?
Yeah. If you want to hold on a minute, I'll pull up.
Everything is done. Everything is
By
done.
Nona Guy in BVD Boston. So is that someone who works for you?
Yes.
It is?
Yes. Everything is done in-house.
Brought to you by the Fine Brothers at BVD Boston. A day full of great food, drinks, dancing, and a whole lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not supposed to have dancing. I think
Sue,
we've gone over this many times. It's not necessarily having a dance floor. You're not supposed to have dancing. So either you're understaffed, you don't have enough people to tell your patrons to sit down and finish their food at their restaurant, or you have an issue that's bigger than just people swaying at their tables and chairs.
I don't think, again, after 8 years of operating the same way, I feel like, again, since this push from the neighborhood and from the police that just started happening recently, I've been operating the exact same way as I started. I've not changed anything. Mind you, this is the same way as operation is done at the W, operation is done at Lincoln, operation is done at other restaurants and lounges in the city of Boston. Right now, there's this pure, I guess, movement just focusing strictly on Sabre about dancing. Restaurant and lounges would have been. I mean, you also could do research and see. I've been on Phantom Gourmet. I have takeout. I have delivery. So I've done all that. So I don't understand how right now.
In 2014, you applied to the board to have a lounge, to operate more as a lounge dancing, as a
restaurant and lounge. Yes, I've been that since then. It's never been an issue as to the operation ever since. And again, like I said, if you go to the W, they do the same thing and I do.
I know, but we're talking about your license.
Yeah, exactly. I understand. And the focus is on Sabre and not on anybody else. I do understand that. But other places, we operate the same exact way.
Okay, are you aware that your lease does not allow for a dance floor?
I have talked to my landlord. He does not have an issue with what I'm doing right now. Again, I've been an upstanding tenant for 8 years. He doesn't have an issue with me whatsoever.
So what percentage, describe to me how you operate as a restaurant. So what are your peak dining service hours?
People start coming in late. It's a late demographic. They come, they eat for 10 o'clock on, 12 o'clock. People are eating. So it's a late demographic. Again, as a lounge, people come in, they eat, they drink, they do everything all throughout the evening. So the typical restaurant, which is open at 5 o'clock and have dinner service, I am not the typical restaurant. Again, I keep referencing other places because we have the same format. The same thing happened in other places.
Okay. All right, again, just to be clear, this is a hearing on the entertainment side, discussing your entertainment license. And right now, your entertainment license allows you to have entertainment until 2 a.m. It must cease at 12:30 on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Hmm.
Okay, and you're up to date on entertainment license. So I don't have any other questions for Mr. Furman or Attorney Feaster.
No, the only thing I wanted to make sure that's in the record as well, and I'm sure you are aware of this, Ms. Joyce, is the standard operating procedures that Mr. Furman has in place. If you don't have that, we can make sure that that becomes a part of the record. And that speaks to the the TIPS training and other training that his people must have. And there's a whole list. So if you do not have that in your records, please reach out to me and we can make sure that you receive that. And as far as what I've heard from all of the officers today, as well as what I've just heard relative to the entertainment license, each time they've done I think it was the C35, or at least where they've gone in, because there's several reports on that list of incidents that you gave me. Some of them were licensed premises, the license checks. There's on here for 180. I just want to point out that on here there are at least many of the references to 180 Lincoln Street are license checks, those CD35s, and I can, based upon what has been occurring, if Mr. Furman and at Savoy Restaurant did not have his licenses, both entertainment as well as his license to operate as a restaurant, not visible and appropriate, that would have been noted, and that's just not the case that in any of the reports that have been made today. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
Just to clarify, what does BVD mean? And you were saying that they're your employees?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
It's just an acronym for Boston Black Young Professionals.
Okay. So, all right, so Friday is a Lord, so they are your staff?
Yes, yes. I don't use apps. They are my staff. And again, I'm gonna I keep hovering on the same thing. I operate in the same manner, same fashion as other restaurant and lounge in the city that no one has an issue with. In the same fashion.
I don't know if some of these other places have the same number of 911 calls either. So we're just taking a look at it in the totality of the
Part of it is that the neighbors have been encouraged to call. It's never been this way for after 8 years. And if you notice, the neighbors have been encouraged to call. The calls have been coming more, whether it's true or not. There's been time even Sergeant Davis on the call that they have made false accusations. They've called for fights, and then when the people arrived, they said, "Oh, there was no fight. Oh, I thought there was a fight." So they've been
and we do, and I'm sure the captain appreciates you working with the neighborhood, but that's not what we're discussing today. We're just discussing, the different dining options you have in your entertainment license. So
you mentioned the call.
Strain on the police resources in this neighborhood.
Well, Miss Joyce, I have to take issue with this characterization. I have 6 calls here, so I can't say, and like I said, I don't want to give my opinion. I'm not going to be judgmental on whether a call is not, but they have to be evaluated in light of the total circumstances. And to say that there is a large volume, that's just, the record just doesn't demonstrate that. And this period of time is from July 31st to August 27th. So I must take issue with the characterization that there's a lot of calls that's related to my client's establishment
And I'm just
in violation of an entertainment license. I just want the record to reflect that.
License. I'm just trying to make
I just want to reflect that.
Right, I just want to reflect that, you can have Taco Tuesday and have restaurant service. You don't need to have a DJ till 2 a.m. I'm just thinking these things through. These are things
No, we're not open till 2. No, there's never been a violation at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. There's never been.
Oh, I know. I'm just,
No. We close
a lot of information to process.
And as far as the violations to the things that pertain to that's on the license, there's no evidence that any of those things there. This is the neighborhood issue, which I fully appreciate. But as far as any violation, if he had violated any of the terms, that's why I made it a point to say that if he had when they did the license premises checks, that if he had violated anything, including having the license that was out of date, license not hung in a particular place, that all would have been noted. So
okay, and I'm just going to remind you, Mr. Furman, you have to have masks for your patrons and your staff. If you just have, there's an advertisement on Instagram for your, BVD thing, it says no masks are required. You are licensed by the city of Boston, so you are subject to our rules and regulations in addition to the state. Isn't one that trumps over the other. So I'm not saying they're not wearing masks. I'm saying they need to be wearing masks, and you should not advertise that no masks are required. That is a violation of our rules and regulations. That's not before us today, but it's a helpful hint to you.
Okay.
Okay, I have no other questions.
I have nothing further either. Thank you very much, Ms. Joyce.
Thank you.
Thank you, officers.
Thank you. And that concludes today's hearing.